صلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
For the hastened reappearance of Imam Zaman, another salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم به نستعين. الحمد لله الذي جعل الحمد مفتاحا لذكره وسببا للمزيد من فضله ودليلا على آلائه وعظمته، ثم الصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين أرواحنا له الفداء. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد أرسلنا رسلا من قبلك وجعلنا لهم أزواجا وذرية، وما كان لرسول أن يأتي بآية إلا بإذن الله، ولكل أجل كتاب. صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته جميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات.
عليكم السلام.
First and foremost, I give condolences to the Imam of our time, Imam Jafar, and then to all of you on the occasion which we are coming to commemorate over the next few days, and that is the Shahadat of Imam Hussein, his al-Bayt, and his companions of Muhibullah. And it is a great pleasure to be back here in Denver, Colorado, especially that the weather is very nice here, and it was quite hot in Austin, Texas, so very nice. So the community, they were envious of me. They were like, oh wow, you went to Colorado? Weather was nice. But it's good to be among Mu'mineen, especially to remind ourselves of Imam Hussein, that mission of Imam Hussein. And before I came, as I normally do, I kind of probe from those who are active in putting together these programs. Inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them rewards and ajr for all that they do. But what are the issues that the community that they are facing, issues that the community they may want to understand a little bit more about? So I was given two issues, and hopefully this is something that maybe all of you had input on, or even if you didn't have input, at least one of those things is something which I think every community is concerned about. And that is family. So that was the first thing that I was told, that yes, issues of family, raising children, and how do we safeguard, for example, our identity as Muslims and Muslim families here in the West or in America, or just in general. How do we raise good families? So that was one of the issues that I was told. The second issue was about the current affairs that we see going on around us, that the world is watching, the world is seeing. And some feel helpless in that situation, and that is the political climate that exists at the moment, the atrocities that are being carried out, the difficulties, and what do we do about them? What is our position? What can we do? So in other words, kind of family and politics. And at least when it was presented, it seems as if these are two different and separate things, but in fact they're not. That these two things, they actually overlap, and inshallah, hopefully, we will try to show how these two things, they overlap, they kind of work hand in hand, and this is why I came up with this topic, echoes of justice. The family and political wisdom of al-Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. In fact, when we look at this whole movement of Karbala, Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, his movement to Karbala, if you look at it from one perspective, you say, oh, well, there's something political going on. There's someone who wrongfully took the position of the Khilafah. And there's a stance for justice against the injustice of Yazid. And what does Imam Hussein alayhi salam, what does he do when he begins his movement from Medina to Karbala? He takes his family with him. So that interaction between politics, stance for justice, and family, they're intertwined. In fact, when I begin to think of these things, I begin to kind of examine them. What position or how should we really address this issue? I quite often like to see that if this is something that is particular to ourselves as Muslims, that we're thinking about these things, or is it on a wider scale that individuals are thinking about these relationships of family, politics, and justice. And in fact, we see that that is the case. There are a couple books which, if you're interested into reading and you like the academic side of things, several books that I kind of came across, I examined, I read through them, and inshallah through our lectures I may indicate certain things which were interesting and tie into this topic. One of those books is called Debating Sharia. And this book is about, not written by a Muslim, but written about the Sharia, or at least part of the Sharia, dealing with civil arbitration between husbands and wives, family matters, civil matters, that normally the court deals with. But in Canada, in Toronto, they allowed space for an Islamic court, just to deal with family law. So the Muslims there, they had a choice. That do we want to go to the regular court system of the state, and if we're having some sort of problem, we need some sort of arbitration, maybe there's a divorce, maybe we have to figure out, okay, well, what happens to the children, what happens to the assets? Either we go to that, or we go to the Sharia court. And we allow for our deen, our faith, to determine what happens as far as what it says, according to the Quran, according to the Sunnah, or at least the Sharia, the scholars who are involved in that Sharia court, that they determine that what happens in that divorce. So this is one of the books which was very interesting. And again, along this topic, because it deals with the issues of politics. Should a Western state allow Sharia courts? In fact, even we have one here in America, not the Sharia court, but actually there's actually a Jewish civil court, where they go to this court to determine divorces, arbitration between husband and wife. So they have it here. It exists. Muslims don't have one, but that one exists. The other book, which was very interesting, and the title, again, shows the commonality. So the name of this book is called Justice, Politics, and the Family. Again, the overlapping concepts of family, politics, and justice, how these things intertwine. In fact, one of the very interesting points in that book, the author states at the very beginning, or at least the editor states at the very beginning, says that the family is the most important social and political institution in any society. Interesting. It doesn't say the government itself, it says the family unit is the most important social unit, is the most important political unit in any society. And this is why there's a big debate, or at least they say that there's a big, sometimes conflict or to figure out who controls the family, who sets the values for that family. Right? Because if that family or whoever sets the values of that family then sets the standard of values, the standard of, you can say, vision, the direction of that society, of that family, of that community, on a whole. And this, the issue of, for example, public school versus private school versus, people being homeschooled, that issue comes up. Why? Because that family unit, where does it learn its values? And how does that family unit interact with the society? The third book, which is also very interesting, and also very key to this point, is called The Politics of Kinship. And again, it explores the dynamics of family relationships and building community and building a society. The politics that goes on in that, and the politics and the dynamics that goes on with the kinship and that society development and whatever governance exists in a particular country or a particular society. So this is an idea that it's not simply us as Muslims who are thinking about it. It is an idea, as a concept that perhaps if we haven't thought about it very deeply, others are thinking about it. And others are thinking of, well, how do we manage a family? Even the simple idea and concept of what is a family, the definition of a family. This is huge. How do you define a family? And we'll talk about that. How do you define a family? This also reminds me of a very interesting discussion I had. It's about maybe 25 years ago or so. And it relates to the al-Bayt, it relates to Muhibullah. So I ran into this one brother. And this brother is an American brother, he's Muslim. And at one point he was following the Sunni madhab school of thought. And then through his research, he embraced the al-Bayt, and then later on, he took this kind of neutral position, where he loves the al-Bayt, not some of the al-Bayt. He says, but I don't consider myself Sunni or Shia. And the reasoning that he says, well, after so much time, and I had friends who were Sunni, friends who were Shia, and I read things, and so I know that you have to have love for al-Bayt and the Imam for salaries. He says that's a given. This is about this idea of the fighting was happening, and then you had Sunnis and angry with Shias, Shias are angry with Sunnis. He said, I thought about it, and then I just realized, you know what? This is a fight between two families. This is what he boiled it down to. Not in simplistic terms, but again, just to show you that how much this idea or this intersection between politics, justice, and family, they're all intertwined. He said that, well, I just consider myself to be Muslim, and I love the al-Bayt. And what happened in history was a fight between Bani Umayyah and Bani Hashim. And then again between the Bani Abbasid and Bani Hashim. He was like, and I'm not Bani Hashim, nor am I Bani Umayyah or Bani Abbas. And so this was his way of saying that, if I take this stance, then I have Sunni friends, I have Shia friends, and I keep my own ideology where I love the al-Bayt. I do follow some of their advice in certain areas of fiqh and akhlaq and these type of things, but without putting this label on myself. So he boiled it down in this simplistic terms, although it's more complex than that. It's more complex than that. It's not just simply that, okay, these are two families who are fighting with each other. And that's why I chose the verse that I did. Verse 38 of Surah Al-Ra'd, so chapter 38 of the Quran, verse 38. So chapter 13, verse 38. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He states in this verse, وَلَقَدْ أَرْسَلْنَا رُسُلًا مِنْ قَبْلِكَ, speaking to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, Ya Rasulullah, that before you we have sent prophets, messengers. وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُمْ أَزْوَاجًا وَذُرِّيَّةً. And we created or we assigned for them wives and children. In other words, every messenger, at least most of the messengers, of course, Isa ibn Maryam, there was a special event, Mary, according to most of the idea and concept. But for most of the messengers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that we sent them forth and they had families, they had wives, they had children. And what we will see that as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He points out, not only here in this verse, but also in other verses in the Quran, that family was very important. Among some of the family members of the messengers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent, there were other messengers who came. Ibrahim, for example, his children, Ishaq, Ismail, their children and offspring, some of them were prophets, were messengers. They were a part of that mission, the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Likewise, as we will discuss, and of course we know the verse, إِنَّمَا Muhibullah يُذْهِبَ عَنْكُمُ الرِّجْسَ أَهْلَ الْبَيْتِ وَيُطَهِّرَكُمْ تَطْهِيرًا. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is pointing out this fact or this kind of aspect that, yes, we sent messengers. But these messengers, they had family. They had children. And maybe not all of the children, because again, we have the case of Hazrat Noah. We also have the case of some of the children of the Imam, right? They didn't follow that path. But there were others who did follow that path. Wives who followed that path. Wives who carried the banner of that message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to that messenger. Children who delivered that message. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pointing out that fact in verse 38 of Surah Al-Ra'd. And we know, as many of our Mufassirin, especially Tabatabai, for example, he says that you can't read one verse in isolation. And in order to truly understand that verse, you have to understand either the verse that comes before it, a couple of verses that come before it, or the verse that comes after it, or a few verses that come after it. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's speaking about this mission of the Prophet, this delegation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent prophets forth, He gave them family, He gave them children, and وَمَا كَانَ لِرَسُولٍ إِنْ يَأْتِيَ بِآيَةٍ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِ اللَّهِ. And they're not to deliver a message, an ayah, a sign, a revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, except for by His permission. What is that sign and what is that revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So if we go to verse 36 and 37 of Surah Al-Ra'd, same chapter, just a couple verses ahead, we begin to understand that what is that revelation? What is that ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying? And what is the positioning that people are taking with regards to that revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He states in verse 36, He says, at the beginning of 36, وَالَّذِينَ آتَيْنَاهُمُ الْكِتَابَ يَفْرَحُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that we have delivered, or at least for those who we have given the book, and the Kitab, Christians and Jews, that some of them يَفْرَحُونَ بِمَا أُنزِلَ إِلَيْكَ. That they were happy with what we have sent to you, Ya Rasulullah, because these are the individuals who, when they heard the revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when they looked at the laws and whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam he brought, they understood that this is that messenger, the final messenger that we were waiting for. These individuals, they were true to their revelation. They said, oh, yes, there will be another prophet and he will come. And they accepted, they embraced, they understood that revelation, the laws, and everything was from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, immediately after that, He says, وَمِنَ الْأَحْزَابِ مَنْ يُنْكِرُ بَعْضَهُ. But then there were others who created an opposition party. يُنْكِرُ بَعْضَهُ. That they denied and they rejected what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he brought and he delivered to them. So immediately, what you're seeing is that you're seeing this two, or you say an opposition party. Ahzab means a group of individuals, which means also a party. An opposition party against the revelation of Allah, against Rasulullah, against the believers. And what would you create an opposition party for? If that revelation was not there to shape every aspect of the society. And it was. It was. For example, establish justice. O you who believe, establish justice. Bear witness for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do not tip the scales, or in other words, don't be unfair in your business. So the revelation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to Rasulullah was to shape every aspect of the society. Bring about justice. Do away with injustice. Do away with corruption. And those who were to benefit from the injustice and corruption were min al-ahzabi yunkiru ba'dah. That they stood in opposition to oppose Rasulullah, to oppose those who embrace that mission. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's very clear in verse 37. He says, وَكَذَلِكَ أَنزَلْنَاهُ حُكْمًا عَرَبِيًّا. Just what was that revelation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He revealed to Rasulullah? Hukman Arabiyya. And here Arabi doesn't mean Arabic. He didn't reveal a law for Arab. Arabiyya here comes in its literal meaning. Arabi means to be clear. So Hukman Arabiyya. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delivered to Rasulullah a clear and decisive and precise, you can say, law. Hukm. Rule for that society. Rather for mankind until the end of time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has delivered that. And some embrace it, some reject it. And it is for every time, every moment. If we go back to verse 38 of Surah Al-Ra'd that we started with, that last part of that verse, it makes that clear. لِكُلِّ أَجَلٍ كِتَابٍ. For every time and for every moment, there is a book, a hukm, a rule, a law. Again, in fact, this is what the ulul azm, and this is why we call them the ulul azm, because each of the ulul azm, the five great prophets, they had a sharia. And their sharia was to not simply govern the place that they came, but to govern mankind in its entirety. One of the examples of this is, you just see that the prophet Ibrahim, who was ulul azm. One of the other prophets who was living at the time, Lut. So Lut, when he delivered his message, he was guiding his people, it was by the law of Ibrahim. Wasn't it Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was giving him a different law than Ibrahim? No, it was the same law. It was the law of Ibrahim that Lut had to implement. So for each of these ulul azm, they had a law. They had a sharia. وَلِكُلِّ أَجَلٍ كِتَابٍ. For every moment, there's a book. There's a law. There's a hukm in Arabiya. There's a clear and precise law that has been given. But the implementation of that law, this is where we need to understand that how do we implement that law? لِكُلِّ أَجْلٍ كِتَابٍ also denotes this idea and concept that that law can be applied in every single time, at every single moment. Certain aspects of that law, yeah, it may change. Why? Because the subject of that law has changed. Not the law itself, but that subject matter has changed. And I'll give you an example. This is one of the things that also Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wasalam, he mentioned to Mufaddal, he says, Ya Mufaddal, he says, وَالْعَالِمُ بِزَمَانِهِ لَا تَحْجُمُ عَلَيْهِ النَّوَابِسِ. He says, an individual who knows the context of his time. عَالِمُ بِزَمَانِهِ. He said he knows what's happening in his time. He knows the relevant issues. He understands the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he understands how to apply that law, he or she. We have women who are mujtahid as well. How to apply this law to this particular time, this particular circumstance. So Imam Sadiq, he says, that individual who has such an understanding will not be fooled by the changing of time and the changing of context. Why? Because he understands that, what is my responsibility here and now, in this time, and in this moment. This is one of the things that the al-Bayt, that they guided us towards. There were certain issues that exist during the time of Imam Hassan, where he made peace with Muawiyah, with Iran. But in the time of Imam Hussein, the same situation and circumstance didn't exist. This is no. It's impossible to make bay'ah with someone like that. وَعَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ, as Imam Hussein says. He says, if that happens, then you can do away with Islam. This revelation and this hook in Arabiya, this clear and precise law that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala delivered to Rasulullah, it's going to be no more. So understanding how to apply that is very important. And then when we get into this aspect of family as well, very important. And particularly for our time. Which we could say, to some extent, this is kind of the Akhir al-Zaman. I just want to read this one hadith from Rasulullah. Not the entire hadith, but just a part of it which is relevant. And it deals with the understanding of family, justice, in a sense. Because if you're going to establish justice in a community, in a city, in a society, in a country, where does it start from? It has to start from your family. If it's not starting from the family, if the value of that family is not based on the principles of justice and what is right, based upon what that clear and precise ruling that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has delivered, then where would it start? You can't establish it within your family, then you're not going to establish it beyond that. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He gave us the example of Rasulullah. He gave us the example of the al-Bayt alayhi. Not only were they examples of purity and spirituality, they were examples of justice. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
He says, لَيَأْتِيَنَّ عَلَى النَّاسِ زَمَانٌ. There will come a time upon people. This is at the end of time. حَلَّتِ الْعُزُوبَةِ. حَلَّتِ الْعُزُوبَةِ. He says, first and foremost, what will happen? That being single will become permissible, it's allowed, it's considered to be okay, it's the norm. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what did He say in that verse? He says, I sent messengers before you, Ya Rasulullah. وَجَعَلْنَا لَهُمْ أَزْوَاجًا وَذُرِّيَّةً. Prophets, they lived on, they had wives, they had prophets, they had children. It says, but there will come a time when this is no longer the case. That everyone's single. No, I'm just thinking to myself, I don't want to get married. Sometimes that's the proposition. You know what? I don't have kids. I have dogs and cats. These are my kids. That becomes a norm, not the norm which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He sent in His revelation. وَكَانَ ذَلِكَ الزَّمَانِ فَهَلَاكُ الرَّجُلِ على يدي أبويه. Unfortunately, time is running out, and I don't want to take too much time, but we'll come to this. He says, and in that time, you'll find that what will happen, that a person will be destroyed. This rajul here doesn't mean just a man, but a person, that why are they destroyed? That the parents create difficulties for that individual. And because of that, that person is destroyed. In other words, justice not being observed in the house. Sometimes it is the parents that creates that difficulty where marriage becomes so difficult. If you look at what the rights of al-Bayt, says marriage should be easy. It's not what a person who's proposing is doesn't have a PhD or doesn't have a master's, not making this amount of money, and all of these barriers come into play. That what happens? And then sometimes I'm saying this because I've seen it where it destroys a person, throws that person into depression. I've spoken with people that family made it so difficult for the person. Persons in their 60s never married. Why? Because there's always something wrong with someone. Yes, we're not Muslim. Nobody's Muslim. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or at least the al-Bayt, He gave us a method what to look for. And what is the purpose of that marriage? We don't understand the true purpose of marriage also. So the person is destroyed. فإن لم يكن له أبوان فعلى يدي زوجته وولده الله. And if that person doesn't have parents, maybe their parents pass away, that individual is destroyed at the hands of their spouse and their children. SubhanAllah. The difficulties that the spouse, not just wives, men, the difficulties, and that's what spouse means, it can go either way. The difficulties that one spouse places the other in, or even sometimes the children places that individual in, it destroys them. That they're destroyed. Again, we don't have time, but I can give you examples of each one of these things. I've been in situations, I'm arbitrating them, and subhanAllah, as Rasulullah said. Not as only is it destroying the family, it destroys communities, it destroys a society, it destroys a whole nation. Then he says, and if that person doesn't have a spouse or children, فَعَلَى يَدَيْ قَرَابَتِهِ, then by the hands of your relatives, that person is destroyed. This is why this issue is so important. To understand that what is the wisdom that the al-Bayt have imparted upon us about family, about politics, about living within the family unit, a community, a society, instilling the proper values in that family and in that community and in the society. Okay, I'll just give this one question that someone asked a scholar. Where one young woman, she said that, before I got married, I wasn't really wearing hijab properly. But I would make my salat on time. And sincerely, with ikhlas. And so, young man who proposed to me, he said, no, he insisted, no, you have to wear hijab, you have to wear hijab. So she said, well, I began to wear hijab properly, we got married. But then, once we got married, I realized the only thing he understood from Islam was hijab and the mourning of Imam Hussein. That was it. Didn't make salat, did all other kinds of things which are khilaf against the Sharia. And so I was just I went to a position that it affected me so much that I began to stop making salat on time. It affected me to the point that even at times I didn't even care about salat. I would make salat qadha. The family unit and how we live in that family affects each individual in that family. Not only does it affect the family, it will affect the community. Not only will it affect the community, it will affect the society as well. And subhanAllah, this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's blessed us with what? Al-Bayt. Al-Bayt. The best of families. In fact, even when Imam Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam, he sent forth his cousin, if you want to look at it by lineage, cousin, brother-in-law as well. As I said, that Aqil, he married one of the daughters of Imam Muhibullah. But when he wrote to the people of Kufa, he says, what? I'm sending to you Akhi, my brother, وَثِقَتِي, and the one that I trust. I absolutely trust this individual. In other words, he trusted the Muslim who loved you with his life. This is why? Because this is the unit, the family unit that they gave us as an example. In fact, Muslim Ibn Aqil, he was raised by Amir al-Mu'minin in the house of Amir al-Mu'minin. It's not much time, but Muslim Ibn Aqil, he was once somebody. He was that individual that, subhanAllah, that even before he was born, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Rasulullah recited a musibah for Muslim Ibn Aqil. And he said that when Rasulullah, he began to cry for Muslim Ibn Aqil, he said, Jarat, that the tears of Rasulullah began to flow down upon the chest of Rasulullah. Yeah. This is the family that al-Bayt has created. This is the family that they've given us as an example. This is a family that was established on the values of that revelation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is that family which went forth to establish justice. I want to take you, today's the first majlis. But I want to take you to a moment, actually 2 moments, near the end of the life of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein in Karbala on the day of Ashura. I will revisit it. They said that when Imam Hussein alayhi salatu, when he stood alone on the battlefield of Karbala, all the men were martyred. His family, his companions, they were martyred. And Imam Hussein, he stood and he was about to go out onto that battlefield. He said at one moment he looked at the bodies of the shuhada. Then he began to call out. Who did he call first? He said, Ya Muslim ibn Aqil. Called out Muslim. Ya Hani ibn Urwa. Ya Zuhair. Ya Burair. قُومُوا مِنْ نَوْمِكُمْ. Muslim, where are you? In this moment of my need. Ya Hani, rise up from your sleep. وَدْفَعُوا فَدْفَعُوا أَنْ حَرَمِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ, and defend Rasulullah. This is the family of al-Bayt. Another moment which is perhaps even more heart-wrenching. And this is when Imam Hussein, he had fallen from his horse. He was upon the plains of Karbala, and Shibr al-La'in was sitting on the chest of Imam Hussein, about to behead the Imam. And Zainab Kubra, she was looking out. She called out to the people of Kufa, that, oh people of Kufa, is there not one Muslim among you? Oh people of Kufa, is not there one person who can say that they're Muslim? That if we were there, we would respond, oh Zainab, yes, among the people of Kufa, there was a Muslim. There was one Muslim. He was Muslim ibn Aqil. But what happened to Muslim ibn Aqil in the final hours and his days in Kufa? Muslim ibn Aqil, he was abandoned. He was promised safety, and by this he was captured. And Muslim ibn Aqil, he was taken to the roof of Darul. But one Muslim, he knew that he would be martyred. They said Muslim ibn Aqil, he gave his will. He said three things. There was no one to give his will to, but Ibn Ziyad al-La'in, he told Umar ibn Sa'd, he says, take his will, see what is it that you want. Muslim ibn Aqil, he says, when I came into Kufa, I had to take a loan. He says, so sell my shield and pay the 700 dirham. And of course he did not do this. The second thing that Muslim ibn Aqil requested, he says, I know that I will be shaheed, but once I am gone, once I am maqtul, ghassil jasadi wadfanni, he says, wash my body, give me a ghusl, and bury me properly. But what happened to the body of Muslim ibn Aqil? They said when Muslim ibn Aqil, when he was martyred, his body was thrown from the roof of the his body was dragged through the streets of Kufa. They said the head of Muslim ibn Aqil and Hani ibn Urwa and two other individuals, they were the first heads that were sent to Sham, to Yazid. The third wasiyah of Muslim ibn Aqil, he said, write a letter to Hussein. Tell Hussein, don't come to Kufa. Hey Hussein, my Kufa, Ahli Kufa, oh Hussein, don't come to Kufa. The people of Kufa, they will betray you. Ya Hussein. But of course that will was not also honored, and this is why we see that Imam Hussein on the day of Ashura, on the day of Ashura in the land of Karbala, the same Ma'in that took his will, that Ibn Ziyad says, take the will of Hussein, Muslim ibn Aqil. What does he want? He was sitting on the chest of Imam Hussein to take the life of Imam Hussein. اللهم حكم بالمجلس مسلم العقيدة اثره واستره واستر عيوبنا وقضي حوائجنا واشف مرضانا وارحم امواتنا وعجل فرجنا صاحب العصر والزمان إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون سمعنا الذين ذكروا إليك قريبا يزعمون واعطي حسين
يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين يا حسين.
Others, please form the rows with us. Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya
امشب عرش خدا بوی محرم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد امشب از عرش خدا بوی محرم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد امشب از عرش خدا بوی محرم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد امشب از عرش خدا بوی محرم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد امشب از عرش خدا بوی محرم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد حضرت خیر النساء با امت هم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد حضرت خیر النساء با امت هم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد حضرت خیر النساء با امت هم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد حضرت خیر النساء با امت هم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد ماه ماتم میرسد یا حسین دل بی‌تاب اومده چشم پر از آب اومده دل بی‌تاب اومده چشم پر از آب اومده دل بی‌تاب اومده چشم پر از آب اومده اومده ماه از آن لشکر افغان
Ya Hussein,
Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. मातमे शबीर, मातमे शबीर, मातमे शबीर, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें। दिल बदिल सीना बसीना, दिल बदिल सीना बसीना, करबला तामीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें। ये मातम पहचान हमारी, इसके जान कुर्बान हमारी, जिसमें यही ये जान हमारी, ये मातम है शान हमारी। कहता है ईमान हमारा, सारे जवानों पीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें। असगर तेरी प्यास का मातम, अकबर का अब्बास का मातम, हसरत का इयास का मातम, हासिल है एहसास का मातम। लाख ज़माना हमको रोके, हम इसकी तशबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें। ये मातम मज़लूम का मातम, ज़हरा के मासूम का मातम, पानी से महरूम का मातम, इग़्तले हलक़ूम का मातम। इस मातम से हम जुदा हैं, वक्त को ज़ंजीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें। आबिद की ज़ंजीर का मातम, खुश्क करे और तीर का मातम, ज़ैनब का शबीर का मातम, दिल से करे दिलगीर का मातम। जो मातम ज़ैनब ने किया था, हम उसकी तफसीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें। मातम जिसका दरिया दरिया, जिसकी वफा ईमान का सेहरा, जिसके अलम का खून फलेरा, डूब गया वो चांद में डूबा, उसकी वफा कहती है हमसे, दुनिया को तस्वीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें। करन सकी जो भाई का हम, उस ज़ैनब की याद में अब हम, करन सकी जो भाई का हम, उस ज़ैनब की याद में अब हम, रंजो खुशी से करके हम, हर दिन समझे माह मुहर्रम, ज़ख्म दिले ज़ैनब की खातिर, कोई दवा तस्वीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें। मौला ऐसा ज़र्फ़ बनाकर, ये मातम सौगात बनाकर, ले जाए सीनों पे सजाकर, शहर नजफ़ में दिल में बसाकर, अपनी आज़ादारी का तोहफ़ा नज़्र ख़ैबर गिर करें, मिलके सब मातमे शबीर करें, जब खातूने महशर पूछेगी बात जो आकर चाहिए क्या मातम की बिना पर हम कह देंगे हमको खुदा में शब्बो शबीर करें मिलके सब मातम में शबीर करें मिलके सब मातम में शबीर करें दिल बदिल सीना बसीना दिल बदिल सीना बसीना करबला तामीर करें मिलके सब मातम में शबीर करें मिलके सब मातम में शबीर करें
شده آسمان خیمه من زمین و زمان قد ماتم دوباره افق رنگ خون است سلام هلال محرم دوباره محرم رسید و حسینی شد سینه ها دوباره محرم رسید و حسینی شد سینه ها دل اهل دل سینه زن شد نفس‌های آن مرسیه ها بیا ای دل امشب به قابوس این غم بیا ای دل امشب به قابوس این غم بیا تا بباریم چو باران نم‌نم بیا ای دل امشب به قابوس این غم بیا ای دل امشب به قابوس این غم بیا تا بباریم چو باران نم‌نم یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا حسین یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا حسین یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا حسین یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا بخوان روز خانوار دیگر بیا شرح آن ماجرا کن بیا بغض یک سال به یک روز حاجت رها کن بیا روز خانوار دیگر بیا شرح آن ماجرا کن بیا بغض یک سال به یک روز حاجت رها کن روایت کن از دشت ماتم بخوان خط به خط روزهایش ولی بگذر از خط آخر که سر رست ماند باید به هر خط مقتل یا خون بگری به هر خط مقتل بیا خون بگری که منزل به منزل چو مجنون بگری به هر خط مقتل بیا خون بگری که منزل به منزل چو مجنون بگری یا حسین یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا حسین یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا حسین یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا دوباره شده صحن حیرت پر از اعتیاد شهیدان دوباره بیادم بگیر به یاد امام شهیدان دوباره شده صحن حیرت پر از اطریام شهیدان دوباره بیادم بگیر به یاد امام شهیدان که ما مرد راه حسین نبیند کسی ذلت ما که ما مرد راه حسین نبیند کسی ذلت ما بمیریم و هرگز نگیریم امان نامه دشمنان را که میثاق ما جز عشق علی نیست که میثاق ما جز عشق علی نیست که فریاد ما جز علی را علی نیست که میثاق ما جز عشق علی نیست که فریاد ما جز علی را علی نیست یا حسین یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا حسین یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا حسین یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا یا ابن الزهرا
जब जान मुहर्रम का नजर आया बहनी को जब जान मुहर्रम का नजर आया जब जान मुहर्रम का नजर आया बहनी को जब जान मुहर्रम का नजर आया बहन को जब जान मुहर्रम का नजर आया बहन को
Allah
کرب و بلایم زخم تنم مثل ستاره قتل گرم داره تنها شعارم یا حسین است پرواز روحم تا حسین است بر لب من ذکر سلامت از خون من جوشد قیامت مسلم سرش از تن جدا شد فدای خون خدا شد سلام بر وفای مسلم سلام بر وفای مسلم جان جهان فدای مسلم خون دو طفل نازنینم گردد فدای راحلینم اللهم اجل لوليك الفرج والعافية والنافع اللهم اجلس بنا قياما واشهدنا اياما وجعلنا من خير اعمالهم وانصارهم اللهم انصر من نصر الدين واخذل من خذل المسلمين اللهم اشغل الظالمين بالظالمين اللهم ارزقنا شهادة في سبيلك اللهم كن لوليك المقتدر Let us conclude the Majlis by thinking and considering those who aren't amongst us, those who have Allah, who are in need of our prayers with 5 times. Amen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amman yujibul mustarrida wa yakshifu as-su'. Amman yujibul mustarrida wa yakshifu as-su'. أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أمن يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء أجل الله inshallah. We will now have a presentation so if everyone can be seated for the presentation, inshallah. This is salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Allah Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sisters, we have about 20 minutes until namaz time. Alhamdulillah, we're honored to be joined by Brothers Zunaid from the Zahra Trust organization, which I'm sure many of us are familiar with. Inshallah, Brothers Zunaid will take about a few minutes of our time and share some updates regarding some of the work that the organization is doing. Please welcome him with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم أجرنا وأجرهم بمصاب بالحسن مع السلام. Respected brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Before I begin, I would just like to express my sincerest gratitude to the community here in Denver for allowing me and my brother Ali Mustafa the opportunity to come here and talk about the organization, the Jafar Trust, and what we do. It's going to be, inshallah, just 5 to 7 minutes. I don't want to take up too much of your time, and it's more or less just going to be about some information in regard to what we do. So who we are, the Jafar Trust, if you guys haven't heard about us, is a global charity with a vision to make every person self-sufficient and not in need of financial aid. We're a global organization. We have offices in the US, Canada, and the UK. And what we really do is we try to provide critical support to families and individuals from marginalized communities. We are a Shia organization, and we try to help our own Shia, but we go beyond that. We go beyond to different ethnic communities and groups that we see are not getting the support they need from the world. Just as a quick kind of, diagram, we do work in multiple countries all across the world. We work in Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, Yemen, Turkey, and there are some countries that aren't highlighted. If you guys have some questions about that, inshallah, afterwards, more than happy to answer them. We can even discuss that. We do work in Kenya, Tanzania, really so many different, places all across the world. From there, I really just want to talk about 3 main things that we really do. The 3 things that we're kind of known to do or our focuses, and that is immediate help, short-term help, and long-term support. We believe as an organization that the support that we must give to individuals cannot just be, we feed them once, we clothe them once. No, rather, our support should be one that transforms the life of an individual so they can be self-sufficient. Again, one of the things that we do is emergency and humanitarian aid. Usually whenever some sort of natural disaster occurs, we're one of the first organizations on the ground. When the earthquake in Turkey happened a year or 2 ago, we were there. When the recent earthquakes happened in Afghanistan, we were there. And when the recent crisis happened in Gaza, in the surrounding region, we were there to offer aid. We have provided, alhamdulillah, emergency relief to over 100,000 individuals. And this ranges and is in a lot of different forms. It can be in the form of housing, it can be in the form of food, in the form of water, in the form of packages during the winter, packages during the summer, and all sorts of these things. One thing that we really try to focus on here at the Trust is mental well-being. So in Najaf, at the moment, we currently support widows and orphans. And we're going to talk about a little bit more about those widows and how we support them. But one thing that we do is that we have weekly majalis for those widows. And you might say, how does having a majlis support the mental well-being of a person? It actually goes a little bit above and beyond that. So we have these weekly gatherings with these widows in Najaf, and when someone doesn't show up, or we see that someone isn't showing up for a perceived period of time, we actually go to that person's house and do a welfare check. We make sure that this widow has all the needs that she needs to survive and to thrive. Another thing that we, of course, like to do is have a sustainable impact. We like to give items items and food and water that only is in short term, that again is kind of long term. One thing that again we've kind of done with our office in Najaf with the widows is at the Jafar Trust we like to teach the people that we support, I guess you could say, skills that can help them survive and thrive beyond just the short-term aid that is offered. So in Najaf, what we did, an initiative, is that we gathered all the widows and we taught them actually how to sew. That way, outside of the aid that the Jafar Trust gives, they now have an opportunity to get income themselves. Another project that we had, and this is something really cool, it's one of my favorite ones, is the rickshaw project. What we've done in Iraq, in our office in Karbala, and by the way, if you guys are ever in Karbala, ever in Najaf, ever in Iraq, ever in Afghanistan actually, you're more than welcome to come check out the work that we do. Please just feel free to reach out. One of the things that we actually did in Karbala, which was really cool, is that we had this rickshaw project. This rickshaw project was where we rented out multiple individuals in the community a rickshaw. What we did was we rented them out and they used this rickshaw as a form of actually earning income. It can be through various things such as delivery, transportation, and the way that it kind of works is that we have an agreement with these individuals where over time they actually pay us back the money and then all of a sudden they fully own the rickshaw and it becomes a source of income for them. So this is kind of some of the ways that we help at the Jafar Trust. We have some case studies here. There was a man, just for as an example, his name was Ali. He was struggling to support his wife with $2, and he was disabled due to a condition in his foot. It was difficult for him to undertake jobs in which would fatigue his foot and further aggravate it. Hence, he was unemployed, usually relying on handouts and sadaqah money. He approached us for tuta and was accepted into the program, and now uses this tuta for water delivery and started earning an earnest living to provide for his family. This is all I had to say. Thank you again so much for giving us this opportunity. My brother Ali Mustafa, he's going to be in the back. He's going to have some flyers. If you want to learn more about the organization, feel free to scan this QR code. You can go to our website, and we're also available on Instagram and YouTube, and you can check out the various work we do there. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi.
We have about 15, 20 minutes until prayer time. If you'd like to renew or resume, inshallah, we'll start namaz exactly at 8:50 p.m. Again, for all the mu'mineen, mu'minat, the ulama, the shuhada, those who are no longer among us, all of our loved ones who have departed from us, the loved ones of those who sponsored this majalis, all of those who are present, let us remember them with a surah al-Fatiha. Also, just one quick announcement. Alhamdulillah, our wonderful youth in our community are planning a ziyarah trip, inshallah, this December. And so as part of that, they're fundraising and they're selling these night lights that you probably saw on your way as you walked in. So please go take a look at what they have available. 100% of the proceeds will go toward the ziyarah trip, inshallah, in December. So if you had a chance to check out the amazing lineup of products that they have, please do so, and please support them. Inshallah, we continue to encourage our youth to enhance and strengthen their relationship with the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Salam Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Every person should buy at least one, if not more, according to our respected brothers. So please support the youth, ensure that we're making sure that they're all able to go for their ziyarah trips.